And now, your daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth, where this greatest nation is involved in a great, significant, and increasingly savage war. Savage war because of reports that the Iranians are now attacking oil infrastructure facility to try to wreck the world economy. And to put pressure on the United States to relent in our attack of the Operation Epic Fury. All of this is going on with President Trump saying this morning that no boots on the ground, in other words, a ground attack to go along with our massive air attack on Iran is possible and could be in the immediate future. We will get to that. We'll also be speaking shortly with Michael Oren, the former Israeli ambassador to the United States, about Israel's role in this war. He's going to be speaking to us from Israel, from Tel Aviv, where he has and his family have made 30 trips to bomb shelters. I've had the same news from my brother, whose children have been called up for additional service, new reservists coming to the fore for Israel. My brother mentioned that during the first day of war, they had sirens going off and needed to go to bomb shelters 10 different times. It's much more than that now. There's also a report on a jihadist who shot up a bar in Austin, Texas. This the day before a crucial Texas primary, which we'll also be talking about, but a great deal going on. Perhaps the most epic announcement came not from President Trump, but from a news reporter, Jake Tapper, on CNN, who basically said that this is not going to be a quick and relatively easy war like the 12 days fighting against Iran back in June. It could be the big one. What does that mean? This is Jake Tapper on CNN, clip 18.
I asked the president how long he thought this military operation or war might last. He said, quote, "I don't want to see it go on too long. I always thought it would be 4 weeks, and we're a little ahead of schedule." I asked the president if the U.S. was doing more than these military strikes to help the Iranian people regain control of Iran against the regime, to seize the country from the Iranian regime. And he said, yes, the president said, yes, we are indeed. But right now we want everyone staying inside. It's not safe out there. And then the president said, it's about to get even less safe. He said, quote, "We haven't even started hitting them hard. The big wave hasn't even happened. The big one is coming soon."
The big one is coming soon. And then the president echoing those sentiments, the president speaking at this morning's press conference. This is clip 5.
This was our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime. And they are indeed sick and sinister. We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always, and we have right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks. But we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it. Whatever somebody said today, they said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly. After that, he'll get bored. I don't get bored. There's nothing boring about this. Do you agree with that, Pete? I don't think there's anything, Mr. General. I think there's nothing boring about it.
Okay, there's nothing boring and nothing certain about it. It is very much up in the air. One of the things that I spoke about, we posted at our YouTube channel, the Michael Medved Official, some of my reactions to the first stages of the war. And there's this ongoing argument about, is this really a war of necessity or is it a war of choice? Richard Haass, who's been a guest on this show many times in the past, was the head of the Council on Foreign Relations for many years and has been a presidential aide in the past. He wrote a book saying war of necessity or war of choice, and basically saying that a war of necessity everyone can understand and get behind. A war of choice is more varied. This, however, according to many people who are looking at it, is a war of opportunity because of all of the unrest in Iran, because of the thousands of Iranian civilians who were slaughtered by the regime. The minimum number, it could be as many as 50,000 people were killed. The minimum number is 6,800. That's even acknowledged by the Iranian regime, or what's left of it, because many of them, including the head of that evil regime, are dead. And with all that going on, it was a war of opportunity. It was a war that the president seized the opportunity. And of course, it is very different from the position he took very publicly, where he criticized President Bush, he criticized President Obama, he criticized his predecessors who had done the same thing for the sake of making the long-term future of the United States more secure. The idea that this is not just a war of choice, that there is a unique and fleeting opportunity here, and it is a real opportunity to get regime change. What comes up now is that the question is not a war of choice or a war of necessity. The question is it going to be a war that is successful or a war that is not? And success clearly means a regime change and pledges to say what President Trump calls the secret words, which the secret words are no secret. The secret words would be a pledge by Iran that we will not at any time develop a nuclear weapon. And you agree to that, there's no more war. Everybody can go home and they can start rebuilding under different leadership. They will definitely have different leadership. The question is how different, and whether it is it is something that is meaningful in terms of enhancing United States security. There's profound disagreement about that. Coming up, we'll be speaking to Michael Oren, the former ambassador of Israel to the United States, partially about Israel's role in all of this. And it is also very significant that President Trump, and we'll give you segments of that interview, now says he refuses to rule out boots on the ground in Iran, saying to the New York Post, I have to do the right thing. What will determine whether it's the right thing or not is the outcome of this war, and what happens in the next few weeks at most, but perhaps even as recently as the next few days. There is a great deal coming up, plus the terrorist-like attack that occurred at a bar in Austin with nearly 20 people killed or injured. We will get to that and much more coming up on the Medved Show. And on the Michael Medved Show, the headline over at Mediaite is Trump refuses to rule out boots on the ground in Iran. I have to do the right thing. President Donald Trump refused to rule out deploying U.S. ground troops to Iran if they were necessary. A statement this morning saying he didn't have the yips about boots on the ground, like his presidential predecessors did. As he insisted, he had to do the right thing no matter what. In an exclusive interview with the New York Post, which is very much a pro-Trump, conservative-leaning, MAGA-leaning publication, part of the Rupert Murdoch empire that includes the Wall Street Journal. In an exclusive interview with the New York Post today, the president said he would not make the blanket pledge on the issue he said had been made by previous administrations. Quote, "I don't have the yips with respect to boots on the ground like every president says there will be no boots on the ground. I don't say it," he said. "I say probably don't need them, but if they were necessary." The remarks come after joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Saturday targeted Iran's military and political leadership very successfully, by the way. The New York Post pressed Trump on the results of a new Reuters Ipsos poll conducted over the weekend that found that concerning America's strikes against Iran, only 27% of Americans approved of those strikes. 43% disapproved, and 29% were unsure. First of all, it's surprising that the number of people who are unsure at this very early stage of the war isn't higher than 29%. But Trump, according to the article, dismissed the numbers, replying, "I think that the polling is very good, but I don't care about polling. I have to do the right thing. I have to do the right thing." He repeated himself. This should have been done a long time ago. And there, again, there are many people who look back at the history of Iran supporting terrorism and being the world leader supporting terrorism, supporting anti-American operatives in China and in Russia, even in North Korea. The idea that it should have been done a long time ago, I think, is one that is going to resonate with many people. I know it does with me. As difficult as the details of this war may be, and casualties are beginning to be reported, the idea that a previous president, maybe President Bush, maybe President Obama, certainly President Biden, should have done something decisive about Iran before now, that is a strong and powerful, it seems to me, argument. President Trump continued, "I don't think the polling is low. Look, whether polling is low or not, I think the polling is probably fine, but it's not a question of polling. You cannot let Iran, who's a nation that has been run by crazy people, have a nuclear weapon." And that's something that American leaders have said for a while. That was a position that was taken by John McCain when he ran for president, and I was very proud to support him back in 2008. I think people are very impressed with what is happening, actually. Trump added, "I think it's a silent, if you did a real poll, the silent poll, it's like a silent majority." I have no idea whether that's true. We'll see what the pattern is as the polling continues. Trump said that the final decision to act on strikes came after intelligence that he received about the regime pursuing its nuclear program amid ongoing negotiations. And this is the kind of thing that the president should have made clear when he announced the strike to begin with, and he shouldn't have reserved that announcement for the middle of the night, wearing a cap. We had very serious negotiations, and they were there, and then they pulled back, he said. They wanted to make a nuclear weapon, so we destroyed them completely, but we found they were in a totally different site, totally different, because the sites that we took out were permanent. They tried to use them, but they were totally, as I said correctly before, obliterated, right? I'm not sure that's so right. But he goes on. The president said, so then we found nuclear weapons. We found them working on a totally different area, a totally different site in order to make a nuclear weapon through enrichment. So it was just time. Speaking of ongoing operations, the president said the campaign was advancing pretty quickly. We're right on schedule, he said, way ahead of schedule in terms of leadership. 49 killed. And that was, going to take, we figured, at least 4 weeks, and we did it in one day, he explained. Asked about potential retaliation from Iran, he was blunt. We'll take it out. Whatever it's like anything else, we'll take it out. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but the new announcements about Iraq hitting oil platforms that belong to the Emiratis, and Iran has now attacked with missiles 6 other nations, not including the United States, including Bahrain, including the United Arab Emirates, including Qatar. These are Arab nations that in the past have supported Iran, but not so much after they have been hit with missiles. Meanwhile, speaking of being hit, there is a suspect who's been identified in Austin, Texas. There's a bar shooting that left 2 dead, 14 injured. The man suspected of killing 2 people and injuring 14 others when he opened fire on patrons outside a bar in Austin early Sunday morning, had a history of mental illness. What a shock. Sources familiar with the investigation told NBC News. His name is Ndiaga Diagne, 53. He was a Senegalese national and a naturalized U.S. citizen living in Pflugerville, according to 4 law enforcement officials. At the time of the shooting, he wore a sweatshirt that said "Property of Allah" and a shirt underneath the sweatshirt with an Iranian flag theme, these sources said. Is this an indication of the war coming home? More terrorism afflicting the United States? We will get to that. We'll also be talking to Michael Oren, former Israeli ambassador to the United States from Tel Aviv, coming up on the Michael Medved Show. It is a distinct honor to welcome back to the show Dr. Michael Oren, historian, former Israeli ambassador to the United States, former member of Knesset, member of Parliament, and a deputy for minister for diplomacy. He's also a New York Times bestselling author, the writer of the Substack Clarity, which I find indispensable, and founder of the Israel Advocacy Group. Before we get started, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Michael Medved Official. Dr. Oren, you're in Tel Aviv right now. You've been to bomb shelters how many times for alarms?
Over the last time. Well, good to be with you, Michael. Thank you for that very warm introduction, as always. Listen, since the war began on Saturday morning our time, we've lost count. I think over the last 24 hours, we've been some 30 times into what we call the safe room. Though the safe room in this war is kind of an oxymoron because they're not very safe. The missiles that Iran is firing at us pack about 2,000 pounds of TNT, and even our best safe rooms are incapable of withstanding a direct hit. And that's what happened yesterday in Beit Shemesh, where 9 people were killed inside an underground bomb shelter that took a direct hit. So, it adds a whole different layer of concern/fear to this war that we didn't have in previous encounters.
And with this going on, do you expect, there's been talk that this could be a much longer war than the Operation Rising Lion from June. Do you anticipate that the situation is going to continue that way in Israel with the attacks, not just every day, but every hour?
Well, we hope for a speedy conclusion, but we have to be prepared for a much longer encounter. And I think the Israeli society is prepared. There's no anti-war sentiment here. There's no polarization that you're experiencing in the United States. We all understand that this is a war of no choice. It is a war for an existential war against an enemy state that has sworn to destroy us every day for the last 47 years and is assiduously trying to acquire the means of doing that. Now, its nuclear plans were for the time being frustrated, and I stress for the time being, but it has developed a ballistic missile capacity. And these missiles that have been fired at us, some of them have gotten through, and they've been quite disastrous, but Iran wants to acquire 30,000 of these missiles. And if it does, then Iran can advance its nuclear program. It can keep on supporting terrorist groups with total impunity. We won't be able to do anything about it. And so before Iran gets to that stage where it has that massive arsenal, we have to preempt it. And so for us, it's really no choice. I understand there's a big debate in the United States, and I have strong opinions about that debate, but that's not relevant to us right now. And we will do what it takes to secure the state, to assure our survival. We have to give immense credit to our pilots who have thrown, as of tonight, something in the order of 1,000 sorties, each one more than 1,000 miles long. We haven't lost a single aircraft in both of these wars, both last.
Thank God. 1,000 sorties in this war so far?
Yeah, so far. Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
As of today. It's unbelievable.
And
it's extraordinary.
I've had the experience of reading a piece you wrote for the New Republic magazine here in the United States, a piece 20 years ago, where you wrote about why it was essential to stop the Iranian nuclear program. What's the danger specifically to the United States of that program?
Well, this danger is that you have a country which, again, from the day of its inception in 1979, has sworn to destroy the United States. It's its operating principle. Destruction of Israel, destruction of the United States. And it's not just rhetoric. The Iranian regime is responsible for tens of thousands of deaths throughout the Middle East and the world, but also thousands of American deaths in Lebanon, in Iraq, terrorist attacks, attacks against American shipping. Just in the last 2.5 years, Michael, we forget that Iranian-backed militias launched close to 200 attacks against American bases in the Middle East, wounding dozens of American service people, killing 3. And then Iran tried, unsuccessfully, to assassinate a president of the United States, other senior officials. They tried to assassinate me when I was in Washington, D.C., by the way. Tried to assassinate the Israeli ambassador and the Saudi ambassador in Washington. Each and every one of these is a prima facie act of war, a casus belli. And when we hear in Israel, we don't want to get involved in the debate in the United States, and where they're already, accusing Israel of dragging America into another endless war in the Middle East. But we listen to these arguments and we scratch our heads. What else does a country have to do to the United States to merit a military response, a robust military response? And I would always go back, and I know you're a good historian, right? And we'll go back to Churchill in the 30s. But Churchill was warning about Nazi Germany, and people in Britain say, well, it's no imminent threat to us. Right? No imminent threat to us. Churchill says, what are you going to do? You're going to wait until it becomes an imminent threat? Right? And, does anybody doubt whether the Nazis had the bomb, they would have used it on the United States? And does anybody doubt whether Iran had the bomb or had missiles that can reach Washington and New York, that they would use it? That's the only logic, and that's the logic that Israelis see.
Is the ultimate result, the ultimate goal of this war, a regime change? And do you think that is likely?
Well, I think it's not the ultimate goal, but it's a preferable goal. All right, it's the preferred goal. But at the end of the day, the attainment of that goal is not in our hands. We can facilitate the overthrow of that government. We can lay the groundwork. We can create conditions where that would be conducive to regime change. But at the end of the day, that can only be affected by the Iranians themselves. No boots on the ground. Remember, we're not putting on any. The United States is not putting any. But barring that, short of that, the goals would be neutralizing / eliminating Iran's threat to us and to other states in the region, and of course to the United States.
President Trump did an interview today where he said he couldn't rule out boots on the ground. Michael Oren, what worries you most about the next few weeks of war?
Well, as everyone says, it's a cliche. You know how war starts, you don't know how they end. And there are many, unanticipated consequences of war. We don't know what else the Iranians have up their sleeves. We don't know. We don't know whether they can succeed in getting through one of the missile defenses of one of America's warships in the Middle East, perhaps an aircraft carrier. They're certainly going to try. I think what the Iranians have been doing over the last 24 hours has been focusing their missile fire less on Israel than on other Middle Eastern states, with the belief that those states will then put pressure on the president to agree to a ceasefire. So far, that's boomerang. That's backfired. These states are now talking about joining the war, not pressuring for its end. And Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates alone have about 500 fighter aircraft. It's a significant force. But they may also be focusing their fire, the Iranians may focus on American assets, military, on bases, and then ships in the Middle East in order to increase the number of American casualties. And hopefully that will impact American public opinion and put pressure on the president. I personally think they're dealing with the wrong guy.
The return of Reza Pahlavi, the son of the late Shah, is that a likely development?
Well, he's an old friend, and I have a great affection and respect for him, and I wish him the best. And if that was the outcome of the war, it would be perfectly felicitous for the people of Iran and for the people of Israel and the Middle East. But again, that's a decision that the Iranians themselves have to make.
Michael Oren, you can again see his material, including that prophetic 20-year-old prediction of why a strike against Iran was necessary. That's posted at michaelmedved.com. There is more you can find and keep up with Michael Oren at his Substack Clarity locale. And he also through the Israel Advocacy Group. We will be right back with more of the latest developments on The Michael Medved Show.
Sign up today for our free weekly newsletter at michaelmedved.com.
And on the Michael Medved Show, the authorities have not yet confirmed that the shooting in Texas, where 2 were killed and 14 injured at a bar close to the state capitol, close to the great University of Texas campus, the Longhorns. But the perpetrator of the shooting, who is now dead, is a 53-year-old Senegalese national and naturalized U.S. citizen named Ndiaga Diagne, 53 years old. And the fact that he wore, at the time of the shooting, a sweatshirt that said in big letters, "Property of Allah," and that he had a shirt underneath with an Iranian flag, the indications are that he had terrorism on his mind. The officers shot and killed him shortly after the rampage began, according to police. The Austin police were very prompt coming to the scene. Authorities said they were still working to determine a possible motive for the attack, including whether or not it was an act of terrorism. Well, the indications are, considering what's going on in the world and the fact that he's wearing 2 shirts, and one of which features an Iranian flag, I don't think that was because he was looking forward to a new regime in Iran. Diagne appears to have been a lone actor with no state ties, according to sources who emphasized that the investigation is in its preliminary stages. There were indicators that on the subject and in his vehicle that indicate potential nexus to terrorism, said Alex Doran, a special agent with the San Antonio FBI field office. Again, it's still too early to make a final determination on that. A Homeland Security official told NBC News that Diagne first entered the U.S. on March 13th, 2000, on a B-2 tourist visa. He became a lawful permanent resident in 2006, and based on marriage to a U.S. citizen and a naturalized citizen in 2013. He became a naturalized citizen in 2013. The official said he was arrested in 2022 in Texas for a collision with vehicle damage. The violence took revelers outside of Buford's, a popular beer garden in downtown Austin, by surprise. A video recorded by a bystander appears to capture bursts of gunfire as people shout, "Oh my God," and crouch to hide. Another video shows people who appear to be injured lying on the ground under the bar's string lights, drinks strewn around them as sirens wail. The gunman may have circled the bar several times in an SUV before he opened fire, the Austin police chief has reported. At one point, he put his flashers on, pulled down his window, and began using a pistol, shooting out of his car windows, striking patrons of the bar that were on the patio and out in front of the bar. The gunman then parked his car and walked out with a rifle, shooting some people who were walking by, the official said. As he walked along West South Street, Davis said officers encountered and shot him. Buford's is in downtown Austin, just 2 miles from the heart of the city's University of Texas campus, and less than a mile from the Texas Capitol building. And there's a big primary election coming up in Texas tomorrow. And that's where Senator John Cornyn is running for a 5th term and being challenged by someone who is much more identified with the MAGA movement, the Kenneth Paxton, who is the Attorney General of the state of Texas. And there's a third, Wesley Hunt, who's a U.S. congressman, is also running for the Republican nomination. This in a premier match during this election season. Meanwhile, reporting on CNN this morning, Pentagon briefers acknowledged to congressional staff in a briefing yesterday that Iran was not planning to strike U.S. forces or bases in the Middle East unless they were struck first by Israel or the United States. Multiple sources told CNN. This undercuts the CNN reports the Trump administration's argument on Saturday that Iran was planning to potentially strike the U.S. preemptively and posed an imminent threat. I think that the line that Michael Oren used is extremely apt. The Churchill line was, if you wait, why would you want to wait until they posed an imminent threat? The idea that they should be developing a nuclear weapon at all, that in itself has been discussed as grounds for taking radical and decisive action for more than 20 years. And again, the piece that Michael Oren co-wrote for New Republic magazine in 2007, nearly 20 years ago, makes that point as effectively as it can be made now. It is, by the way, that article is posted at michaelmedved.com, and it's terrific reading and very informative. Meanwhile, Axios reports that 4 U.S. service members have been killed in action following the massive U.S.-Israel military operation launched in Iran Saturday that sparked swift retaliation. The big picture, says Axios, President Trump has warned more will likely die before the operation ends. state of play, the U.S. Central Command confirmed that as of Monday morning, the death toll had climbed to 4 after a service member seriously wounded during Iran's strikes succumbed to their injuries. The deaths of 3 other U.S. service members were confirmed Sunday. And meanwhile, there were 3 U.S. fighter jets supporting Operation Epic Fury. They were mistakenly shot down by Kuwaiti air defenses Sunday night, with part of the attacks on Kuwait from Iran causing the mistake. The U.S. Central Command said in a Monday statement that all 6 of the air crews in the fighter jets ejected safely, and they are in stable condition. Total, according to the Jerusalem Post, 4 U.S. service members have been killed in action following the massive U.S.-Israel military operation launched in Iran on Saturday that sparked swift retaliation from the Iranians, even with the death of their leader, the supreme leader, as he was called, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The President Trump has indicated that more will die because that is what happens. The 3 U.S. fighter jets destroyed by accident with as a cost of war. Meanwhile, the United States and Israel hit thousands, that's right, thousands of targets inside Iran, continuing their joint campaign after killing Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iran's Red Crescent said more than 550 people in Iran were killed in the strikes. And Tehran has hit back. Iran escalated attacks on Israel and targets across the Middle East, with 4 U.S. service members killed, 3 U.S. fighter jets mistakenly downed by Kuwait. 11 people have been killed in Israel so far, officials said, and deaths reported in the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Bahrain. The conflict is spreading, but where does it go, and where do we go as this greatest nation on God's green earth?